top 10.
Well, just to be clear, how Crawford edges Spence is experience?
No, it's experience for Crawford. Yeah.
That's how he went. I mean, that's the difference between Spence and Crawford?
The experience and their style. I mean, I think Crawford is more seasoned than Spence. I mean, we weren't talking about Spence 3 years ago, 4 years ago. He was around, right? Undercards here, undercards there, right? Remember Al Heyman had on them undercards. You know, remember that? Right? He's a little guy in the corner, sitting there, I remember. Right? We go to boys promoting him. So I know when Spence really came on the scene, not from the amateur respect of it, but just knowing, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, this guy gonna be sharp, brother Nazim, right? Who knows mostly, if not all, the amateurs back then, a couple of years ago, and I know he know now, even though I don't see him as much and talk to him as I used to, but he told me about Spence. I'm like, okay. Right, quiet, kind of meek type of guy, right? Getting a little bit more voicey now, but the shock of, this is a different level. That's been proven in history. Every fighter can't prove that, but Crawford, man, he's nobody to look at as a stepping stone. Not now, right? A year or two go by, maybe he has some hard, tough Mexican fights or whatever, get banged up a little bit, a little weird.
What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I was letting you guys hear a little bit of Bernard, the Executioner Hopkins, give his intake on Spence versus Crawford. He stated that Spence, the inexperience versus the more seasoned pedigree of Crawford. Crawford will take Spence. And I have to agree with that. Me counterpunching it, giving my own insight on that. I think Crawford is a guy, and Hopkins said it himself. Crawford is a person that his style, it's a level. He's a couple levels above Spence. A lot of people love to jump on the Spence bandwagon. But you guys have to understand something about Spence. His resume, I wouldn't call it necessarily fabricated. He just hasn't been fully tested. Garcia, you think that was a real test for Spence? No. Brook was the first test for Spence. The first. Okay? How many hard fights have you seen Spence in? Or difficult fights? Lamont Peterson? No. Chris Algieri? Hell no. I mean, besides that, if you look at his resume, who has he fought? Now, we can talk about the A-side and all that garbage. We can talk about the belts and stuff like that. He's going to fight Sean Porter. Sean Porter will be the second test in his career. Only the second. Crawford's had many. Okay? It's been at a lower weight class, but that's not the point. The point is, who has he been tested by? Who has Crawford been in there with versus Spence? And you can criticize Crawford and say, Crawford, he was fighting smaller guys. He's fought guys like Gamboa, but he fought Gamboa when Gamboa was on top. When Gamboa was 29, 30 years old in his prime, he beat that Gamboa. The same Gamboa that did give him problems. But he found a way to adjust and overcome because he was that good. He showed what he was worth. Okay? Felix Diaz, right? Olympian, mind you. Beat him easy. Anybody that Postal, the same guy that stopped Matisse. Okay? The same Matisse that was stopped. Well, not the same Matisse that was stopped, but Matisse was also stopped by Manny Pacquiao. But this was years before. Postal stopped Matisse. Matisse retired. Postal was on top. Crawford welcomed that. 140, pay-per-view. Beat him for pillar to post. Outboxed him, outclassed him. Okay? Unified the division. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is that Crawford's attributes are overlooked. Right? They're overlooked. And what's also overlooked is the resume or the lack of true competition on Spence's resume. No disrespect to Spence, but like Bernard Hopkins said, 2 or 3 years ago, we weren't talking about Spence at all. He was an undercard fighter. You know, people knew, well, he was going to be a bad boy, but who is he beat to make him this bad boy? See, all these fighters have to understand that you're just as good as the people you beat. Okay? Was Brook undefeated when Spence beat him? No. Was he damaged when Spence beat him? Yes. Okay? Was Chris Algieri undefeated? No. I mean, Mikey Garcia, do you think Mikey Garcia had a chance of really beating Spence? No, he didn't. Of course, people wanted to. They wanted Mikey to do something that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather did, but he couldn't. Okay? And that shows me that he's not that great fighter like people think he is. Maybe if he would have stayed at his own weight class, he probably would have been beaten by Lomachenko anyway. Let's be real. See, a lot of fights don't get fought because people don't really truly want to get tested. That's why I think Spence and Crawford won't really happen this soon until Crawford starts showing some wear and tear, which he hasn't showed wear and tear. Has he been injured any? Have you seen Crawford take a lot of beatings or a hard fight? No. They're waiting for those type of fights to Crawford to get in. But of course, no one wants to let him in because no one wants to be exposed by him. And that's a fact. None of those guys want to know. Al Heyman knows what type of fighter that Crawford is, on top of Bob Arum. Bob Arum knows he has the number 1 fighters, the number 2 fighters in the world. He knows he has these fighters under his banner. And he's trying to do right by these fighters. But back to Bernard Hopkins. It's a time when you figure out, you get in the ring with someone. Like Hector Camacho versus Oscar De La Hoya. Or should I say Oberkar versus Oscar De La Hoya. You know, there was a couple levels of skill set that clearly showed in that fight. And if Crawford fights Spence anywhere within the next year, that will show. And everyone will know, oh, Spence got beat. But at that point, if Crawford beats Spence, when he beats Spence, mind you guys, don't call Crawford a bum, okay? Because that's not a right definition of who he really is, all right? That's not who he is. He is not a bum. He's a very good fighter. He's a good fighter, okay? The only thing is, he was not a tested fighter like he's supposed to be. That's that. And that's my counterpunch on that. You guys tell me what you think about Bernard Hopkins' statements, about my counterpunch. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.